overtime.
There it is, 1995. And boom. First touchdown pass, Panthers franchise history. Woo. With the giant shoulder pads, too.
Yo, what are you playing, middle linebacker or quarterback? Who, you think you're going to hit somebody out there?
Big shoulder pads, big thigh pads, big knee pads.
Right, that's how it was back in those days.
Didn't you guys win that game on a 2-point conversion?
No, we actually lost in overtime on a sack fumble, and then they got it and went down for a field goal. So.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Well,
thanks for
something like
bringing
that.
up
a bad memory.
But I thought it was a good memory. That's what Jim Harbaugh said to me once. I thought that was a good memory. Jim Harbaugh was mad I brought up the Colts Steelers AFC Championship once upon a time. But wasn't your first win on a 2-point conversion? Wasn't that it in 95? There was something about a 2-point conversion in the first win for the Panthers.
We did have a 2-point conversion at the end of the game to try to win the game, and there was a penalty, and it was going to be good, and it had a penalty, and so we ended up kicking the extra point, went into overtime, and lost.
That was this game then. There was the 2-point conversion. Okay, so I was in the right church wrong with you.
Way to go, way to go, Mike.
Well, congratulations on the job now as the head coach of the team for which you were the first quarterback in franchise history. How's it feel to kind of go full circle and come back and be the coach after you were the quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, it feels unique, and then to have Dom Capers on the staff, who was the first,
That's
the first
crazy
head
too,
coach.
right?
So no, I'm excited about it. I feel like, after the experience, the 4.5 years at Indy with all you learn there, kind of version 2.0, just feel more clear, more convicted about what to do, how to do it. I'm excited about the people we're doing it with. Mr. and Mrs. Tepper are great, working with Scott Fitter, excited about what's coming.
All right, I mean, we're on record. We don't think you got a fair shake in Indianapolis, and, that's just the way that the NFL works. But what was appealing about this Carolina football team when you kind of evaluated it and was like, ooh, I'd like to be the head coach of these guys?
Well, first of all, in the interview process, when I walked into Mr. Tepper's house for the interview, sat down there with him and his wife, Nicole, Scott Fitter, Dan Morgan, Samir. It didn't feel like an interview. It felt like a conversation. It felt like we were working. It just felt like this is what it's going to feel like.
Right.
If we, and then obviously it was a long process till a decision is made. There was a second interview. Felt very natural, very at ease. Mr. Tepper was very engaging. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
The big question obviously relates to quarterback, and I saw that you said not long ago that you have to consider all options. Is it your preference to have a younger guy or an older guy, and are recent experiences maybe causing you to say it's time for a younger guy?
But, I mean, I think we all know it's fair to say that every coach would say, hey, the ideal situation is draft a guy that is your quarterback for the next 15 years.
Sure.
But, we're picking 9. You know what I mean? So, we have to consider every option.
Options,
I mean,
right.
I'd love to say if we're, so we have to consider everything.
It could be gone by the time you're at 9.
It could be gone.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's not always a path that you want, but we do like the option of Derek Carr, who we talked to last night. I mean, I'm excited about that option, but we are looking at everything.
Yeah, Derek Carr. I mean, do you think you'll get is there a time frame on when you think you get an answer from him here in this conversation, or you guys make up your mind on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing, you know, and hey, the only way to do it is be transparent, which we were. We both kind of shared our positions. He's trying to see if it's the right fit for him, and we're trying to see if it's the right fit for us. The timing is a factor, right? It could play a factor in the decision. So it's complicated, but that's what we do.
Yeah.
Do you get the impression he's anxious to get something done, or he understands other pieces maybe need to come into place for other teams, whether it's Panthers, whether it's Jets, whether it's this team, whether it's that team, that it may take some time before he knows what he's going to do?
I mean, my sense is, right, I mean, he's like anybody else who would be in this position. He's a competitor. He wants to, in the perfect world, which we know it's not, he'd love to get in and get going somewhere. That's what I would guess. But he's also very mature and understands it doesn't always play out like that. So I think he's going to be prudent. I would guess he'd be prudent in making the best decision for himself.
Yeah. Specific to the roster, they got some exciting pieces. I don't know how much you've been able. I mean, I'm sure at this point you've evaluated everybody and all that.
Yeah.
But Was there anything that surprised you along the way as you started to look at him and go, oh, whoa, I didn't realize, because I don't think you played them the last 2 years, right, in Indianapolis?
No, we did not.
So was there anything that surprised you as you're kind of evaluating the roster that popped out to you? Like, oh, wow, I didn't realize this.
Well, I had a great visit the other day. Brian Burns stopped in the building, and I've been texting back and forth with him, so I go down to see him, and then we're sitting down there talking, and Derek Brown walks in. So the next thing you know, I'm sitting down with those two talking for an hour and a half. I mean, those are two stud pieces. Stud pieces.
Yes, they are.
Stud pieces. Great player. Big time pass rusher. Yeah. So, and that whole defensive unit is we feel really good about. And then the offensive line.
Yeah.
You look at what the offensive line did the second half of the season.
Right.
So a lot of things to build on.
Yeah.
When you're dealing with the current players who were on record saying they wanted the interim coach Steve Wilks to get the job, do you feel like you have to try to address that? Win them over, explain it to them. What's your approach with the guys who have come out and said that?
Yeah, man, I respect that about the players. I would hope the players would say that.
Right.
It goes to show the quality of men that they are, and it goes to show the quality of man that Steve Wilks is, and the kind of coach he is. So, but I think at the end of the day, all of us, because we've all been on all sides of this equation, understand there's a business side to it, and so no, don't really address it. You just go in there, you try to just do it the right way.
Right.
Try to do it the right way.
Is there a silver lining or a lesson, that you learned over the last 4 or 5 years in Indy and that head coaching job that now you'll take to this and go, oh man, this is going to help me out?
Yeah, I mean a bunch, right? Not time for all of them, but
right.
Obviously you want to get stability at quarterback.
Yeah.
That's a big deal,
yeah.
right? It's a whole team effort, but you got to get stability at quarterback. And then secondly, I'm really fired up about the staff that we've put together. We have a great staff in Indy, but I feel like I've learned from that experience. And I feel like the guys that we have in place right now, starting with our coordinators, Thomas Brown, Ajero Evero, and Chris Tabor, that we've built a really great staff. And then you got Jim Caldwell and Dom Capers. So a very experienced, but yet young, bright minds as well.
But I've never asked this before, but I'm sorry, I didn't mean to butt in. But
go ahead.
I figured now's the time. I don't think with the curveball you were throwing in Indianapolis and the Andrew Luck situation, how early before we all found out did you know that was an inkling that could happen?
Really only a couple weeks.
A couple weeks, okay. So it was on there, okay, right.
But, Andrew made the right decision for him at that time.
Right.
And we made adjustments. And, and obviously in some ways I think we did well. In some ways I think we could have and should have done better. So.
You never made excuses for it, though. I mean, you get dealt a hand. You never know when you're going to get dealt that hand, and you just got to go.
You play the hand. And like I said, in some ways I felt at times like we played it in a winning way, and then at other times that wasn't good enough. We got to figure that out and get better.
Yeah.
Had the Bills on the ropes in the wild card game with Phillip Rivers.
If Allen doesn't make 2 or 3 of the most damnest plays I ever saw, you're going to pull off the
upset.
Goodness. The one in the end zone.
I can still remember him. A scramble to the right on the sideline, a 30-yard throw.
You're going to win the game if he doesn't make that play.
That was, they were insane.
Yeah.
He's insane.
He's insane, right? Yeah. Why don't we piggyback off that for a minute? You're an ex-quarterback. You played, what do you think of some of these crazy damn quarterbacks we got right now? The game has changed so much, even from when I played, let alone you played, and now we're throwing this way and going crazy. What's your assessment of Mahomes and Allen and this crew that we got?
Yeah, I think it makes the league special. I think these guys are special players, but not just special athletes, they're special leaders. Anybody knows those 2 guys that you mentioned knows that they're also elite leaders. And at the end of the day, if you're just a physical talent, that's only going to get you so far. What makes these guys special is both the combination of that and the elite leadership as well.
Yeah, right.
You mentioned your coaching staff. You rattled off some of the names. I was impressed extremely by the fact that you got Jim Caldwell to come coach, because he had made it clear unless he's a head coach, he didn't want to do it. What did you say to get him to come and be an assistant on your staff instead of waiting to be a head coach again?
Yeah, I wasn't sure he would do it, but obviously he was my head coach. So I also happen to know he lives about an hour away from Charlotte and has had a home there, and he and I have stayed close. So just called him and said, hey, Coach, I realize that you may say no, but listen, man, I could sure use your help.
Right.
I could sure use your help. He's a great offensive mind, a great leader, and a great teammate.
Right.
So I was extremely pleased when he said yes.
Yeah. All right, Derek Carr, drafting quarterbacks. You haven't heard from Aaron Rodgers or anything since he got out of the darkness, huh?
Oh, he's a free agent. No, he's not a free agent.
I mean, not a free agent.
No, he's not a free agent.
I can't believe it.
No.
I do that once a year at the Combine. Once a year, and that was my
Sometimes
one.
more than
Damn it.
once.
Maybe more than once. Damn it, damn it, damn it. It's a great conversation, though. All right.
All right.
My fault.
So are there any quarterbacks out there that you can't talk about that you're interested in? No, I'm kidding. Ejiro Evero. That was another stunner for everyone because when he got his release from the Broncos, thought he was heading to Minnesota. How much of this is there is no salary cap for coaches and you have an owner who has, relative to most other teams, unlimited funds?
Yeah, that was a big deal. And he told me that right up front. When we sat down and started talking about the coaching staff, he said, you bring me coaches and we'll do what it takes to get them here as a Carolina Panther, and he backed those words up.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to feel very, great to have an owner like that that's just got a big checkbook, and he's willing to support you and whatever your vision is.
It's been dynamic. I'm not going to lie. It's been 3 weeks approximately. Many conversations already, very engaged, but in the right way. Listen, to not learn from his experience of what he's done to get where he's gotten in his life. You can feel the wisdom. I enjoy the conversations, going back and forth, and the support more than anything.
Yeah.
Well, it's great to see you back so quickly and in the NFC and in the NFC South where things are very wide open. So here's to a great start, hit the ground running, and we wish you all the best in your first year with the Panthers.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Chris.
You're the man.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.